Hi, this is Akshitha.
Hi, this is Meenakshi.
So we are here to talk about the author Sophie Mackintosh. So we started a buddy read 2 weeks back.
So usually when people buddy read, they read the same book. But we got two different books by the same author. So we decided to read different books. But we decided to call this project the Mackintosh Project because it's Sophie Mackintosh and her books.
So we are here with Sophie Mackintosh, two books, that is The Water Cure and Cursed Bread, both of which we have read. I read this one and she read The Water Cure.
So about Cursed Bread, I've not read this one. So what are your thoughts on this book?
So basically it's set in a post-war French town. It's a seaside town, and the story is told in flashbacks and as well as through letters. So, and it's not a linear narrative. So you have one page, there is a letter, the next chapter would be a flashback. So you're alternating between the past and the present. And also there is a very thin line between reality and fantasy. And this is told entirely from the point of view of a single protagonist, which is Elodie. You could call, she's somewhere in her middle age. The age is not clear, but we know that she's been married for at least 10 years or so. So she's somewhere in her middle age, or that is based on the descriptions. I'm assuming she's in her middle age. So, and it is through her that we get to know what is happening in the plot. So it is actually based on an incident that happened in a French town. It's a real life incident. Like there was a case of a food poisoning because of a floor got contaminated, and many people consumed it, and many were hospitalized, many died, and some also experienced hallucinations. So what Mackintosh has done is she's drawn from this historical incident, but she has added fictional elements, created a whole story out of it. So this is a background to it, but then what happens later in the plot is entirely Mackintosh's creation. The story is like, you can call it dark fable. It has this dreamy quality to it that I really liked. So, and the thing is, the point of view, because it's just one person's point of view that you are introduced to, you don't know what's actually happening, in the sense, because the person herself clearly says that I have the freedom to lie if I want to. Or
would you call the narrator unreliable? Is that?
I think so. The narrator is an unreliable narrator, but she also claims to be telling the truth. But it's also, you know that it may not exactly be the truth, because she also seems to have hallucinations, and she also says that, she is subject to all these thoughts that keep coming in her head often. So there's that. And the story is ambiguous. Like, I think this book is something that will take you a lot of, I think I will read this 2 more times to actually process exactly what is happening. It took me a lot of time. It's not an easy read. It is like reading a classic. You have to spend time with it, observe every single detail, any hints that are dropped, anything at all that may contribute to the whole idea that she's trying to convey. And I think I haven't reached a point where I know everything that she has conveyed, because I think there are still things that I could have missed. So what was your impression about The Water Cure?
So this is my first work by the author, so I had no idea what to expect. All I know is I met her at KLF, and she was an absolute sweetheart, and she did sign the book for both of us. So it's that. So we're very happy. If you are watching this, thank you. So the book, it was, I think the selling point was that it is a feminist dystopian novel, and I will leave it to the reader to determine whether it is actually that kind of a book. I really enjoyed it, and I went through some Goodreads reviews because I wanted to see what the general consensus was. I was like, okay, I liked it. I want to know what others think. So there are people who really enjoy it, and there are people who found some criticisms. And to be honest, I agree with some of the criticisms, but the book more or less worked for me. And I would definitely recommend going through the trigger warnings because this book gets dark real soon. And I think within 15 pages of reading this book, we started the book reading together, and same location. So I read some I think about 10 pages, and I turned around and I told her, I think this is going to be pretty dark. And it was like, I wouldn't say the plot twists were I wouldn't call them like so unbelievable. They came out of nowhere. No, we kind of know what is happening. There was one plot twist that kind of blew me away. I did not expect that. But apart from that, it is kind of evident what is happening, and that does not deter the enjoyment bit at all, because the plot twist, I don't think that is the point of the story. I think the whole point of the story is the prose, the way she writes those sentences. My God, they're
Yeah.
like so good.
It's very poetic, I think. It's
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part of the story. What was yours? Like the favorite part of Cursed Bread?
favorite part. I think the book is really quote worthy. Like so many quotes that I underline that I can't even point to. There are ample number of quotes.
Give me some quotes.
Oh, sure. Okay, so what I found interesting was this quote. I'll read it out to you. Watch me, watching myself in the mirror, hanging across the room. A flash of color in the corner of my eye. Dreams sticking to me, a faint weight like your hand, holding me down when I wake. I've been looked at in pity and in fear, and I've learned that the only way to be really seen is through desire. To be looked at and found whole, found alive. Please look at me. I promise you that I'm here. It touched my heart.
The yearning.
Yeah. And when
So
you
good.
actually read the story, the quote makes more sense. You know, it appeals to you. You know, the woman actually is reaching out to you and telling you of her plight. So that is one thing, one quote that really I would call my favorite. Also, there are many rustic scenes in the book, like women at the lever. It's like a wash place, a place where the women of the village come together and wash their laundry. So I was reminded of childhood tales my grandparents told me about how this used to happen. You know, like in Kerala, India, like how women,
communal washing. Experience.
Yeah, nowadays it's not there,
Yeah.
but I think even though like this is about a French town, I found Mackintosh's characters to be, or what is happening in the plot to be, very relatable. Some of these things, especially these. So that is one thing I was like, it didn't feel like I was reading a story written by a British author about a French town, but it felt like I was reading a story, or it felt more like one of my old relatives telling me the story. Oh, this happened at our town back in 1951. So it felt like that. I think that is really unique about Mackintosh and her writing. She doesn't use punctuation marks in this book. I don't know if that is the same with Watercure, no?
No, there are punctuation marks.
Okay, so here she doesn't use punctuation marks. So I didn't know, who is saying it and what is happening. I had to reread sentences occasionally. But then once I got the hang of it, then things became easier. But initially I was like, oh, why is there no punctuation marks? And then I realized that, okay, this is a conscious decision on the part of the author. So that is one thing I found interesting. And the narrative, like I said, it is complex. You have to keep guessing, keep figuring out, keep putting all the pieces together to complete the puzzle. So she makes you do that. And I think gender is like a very strong theme in her works, right? What did you think about? I think it's definitely there in the Cursed Bread. Like gender is a theme that you cannot avoid. I think the book is like very much based or rooted in how gender inequality, the problems or things that women face. I think that is at the core of the book, especially desire that is not reciprocated. It's sad. What did you feel about the Watercure? How is gender represented in it?
Because you mentioned unresolved, unreciprocated, what is that? Desire. I believe that is a major theme of this book too, along with gender inequality. And there's a lot of talk about the patriarchal systems and how it oppresses women generally. So in this book, it's a story of three daughters, three girls, sisters, and they're staying on an island with their father and mother. And the father is in a not so subtle manner called King. Okay. And the mother is called Mother. She has no name. And the three daughters, what I love about the narration is you get chapters where you get a combined POV of all three sisters. And the title of the chapter title is like the name of all the sisters. And it goes like, okay, we are doing this. This is what happened to us. And I love that because and there are chapters where the sisters are like a single POV chapters too. So there are portions where the sisters represent a collective feminine POV, and there are individual chapters. So I think when it comes to that, the author, she takes immense care to put it like certain messages across, and I think as a woman it's very easy to see what she's trying to say. And some of the criticisms of a book that I mentioned earlier were talking about how this is highly polarizing, and it's just like I think the audience is meant to be a certain category for women, and it's somehow like there's a lot of man hate in there. And
Yeah, I think I read that criticism.
there's a lot of criticism like regarding this work, and I think when you really think about it, it does have some man hate. But all these women in this book, they are isolated, they are on an island. The only people they come in contact with are their mother and their father. So you cannot look at this book, look at these, let's be honest here, let's call a spade, honestly unhinged and damaged women who have been hurt by people who are supposed to protect them. So you cannot look at their POVs and say, oh, because they hate what men have been done to them, like this is what the author is trying to push. I don't think that is a fair judgment. Like, did you feel that in this book, Cursed Bread?
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, because here also, like, she's pushed into the her circumstances push her to whatever thoughts that she has. Basically she's stuck in a loveless marriage. The Elodie, the main character, she's stuck in a loveless marriage, and the only thing that she has to fill her vacant time or her sadness is her own fantasies, all her own delusional stuff that actually keeps her going, because her life is sad. So whatever because the society is structured such a way that all the wives help their husbands in whatever work they're doing. Like, she's the baker's wife here, so she helps her husband in perfecting the perfect bread. I mean, he's obsessed with making the perfect bread, and the whole people come and buy from their bakery. So all she says, at one point she says that the only connection she has with her husband is the process of bread making. Apart from that, there is no intimacy, there is no other interaction, there is no touch, there is no affection, there is nothing. The only connection is the bread. And there are points in the book where she clearly says that sometimes she envies the amount of time he spends in the bread. He doesn't give it to her. I don't know if that inspired the title also, sort of, because apart from the poisoning of the bread that happens in the book, I think this could be another interpretation for the title, Cursed Bread. So it is also her married life. So such a woman, what do you expect her to do? Okay, you can't expect her to like, her mental stability is also like kind of she's not very stable mentally. It is also very clear. So yeah, that's what I felt. I think
I completely agree with you. The cursed bread being very significant for to the story. It's exactly the same with the water cure. I cannot get into it because it's kind of a spoiler, but like the parents, they put the children through so much, because apparently this is a dystopian world and all the world is poisonous. The men out there are poisonous. The people are poisonous. The water surrounding them, they're on an island, so they are isolated from the society, the mainland. The only the connection they have is their father, king, going to the mainland to get supplies once a month and then coming back. They have no touch with the outside world. So when it's there, the parents subjects these kids, these girls, to such extreme rituals and certain treatments that you look at it and you honestly feel very disturbed. And the water cure is one such thing which will be explained in the story, so I won't go into the details, but the title becomes so much more significant towards the end, and you are honestly left feeling awed by what like Sophie Mackintosh has managed to actually write when you look at the title and the underlying theme. So I find that I think that's a similar something similar about this both the books. So I like that. And there's violence in there, and one criticism that I found online was, the gratuitous violence, it's just there for the violence sake of violence. And I would say it I would have agreed if the women in this book were not so damaged, if they were not so hurt. I would be like, yeah, maybe. But when violence is the norm, when violence is something you are familiar with, it's the only thing that has been you're not familiar with love, violence, and that's it. You cannot expect these people to give love when they've not been introduced love, right? They know love, they can only give love. So these girls, all three of them, the sisters, they know violence. So there's violence against women in this book, and there is violence in general. I'll not spoil it, but there is violence in general, and it can be very disturbing. And I think from the page 15 onwards, there's something dark looming. Something, you can feel the walls closing in. You feel bloody claustrophobic, and something's about to happen. And like I said, it's not, the plot twists are not it's not out of nowhere. You kind of see what's happening. It is predictable, but as the puzzle pieces fall into place, you feel like you're choking, because you feel like, oh my god, I know where this is going, but this is really bad. And even when the ending happens, I know some people hated the ending, some people loved it. I would say it was inevitable. There is no way you can hurt a bunch of people like this, bunch of girls like this, and then expect a happier outcome. I think that would be very optimistic, and I think this is a very inevitable but sad but inevitable ending. How did you find the ending of Curse Spread?
I think I would agree with you, because the ending here is also pretty much inevitable. But even though until that was I reached that point, I was still guessing what could have happened. But when it happened, I was like, okay, makes sense. I can't expect anything else here. But also, I think the focus of the book is not specifically the ending, because this is structured in a very different way. Like I said, the focus is the protagonist, flashbacks, and her fantasies, her problems, everything. So it's not the ending wasn't yes, it did fit the puzzle. It did complete the picture, the whole picture. But it was not something. It was a question that was there in my mind while I was reading. Okay, what will happen? But then it wasn't the narrative was linear anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going to happen next. And the part about it being dark, this one is also really dark. It looks like initially there are supernatural elements as well.
Okay.
Though they do not dominate the whole narrative. Initially they are they're looming in the horizon, and then slowly towards the second half they start descending bit by bit. They're, I think, there to punctuate the narrative. More like it. There are felt folklorish, some of the elements. And anything that can happen in a very remote seaside town with its close-knit community of people, and two outsiders unexpectedly come. I think that's pretty much mentioned in the back cover.
Outsiders coming in and accepting the so-called normalcy is something she is
Yes.
Same thing here. A bunch of men appear right after their father dies, and that is not a spoiler. That's the first line of the book. But yeah, the disruption of the so-called normalcy is something I think that fascinates the author.
Yeah.
She explores it a lot. And something else that really I really enjoyed is the fact that the prose when while being fantastic, is also very grounded. It is it's what you call this. It's flowery, but not as flowery as the like some of the classics or some of the older works, and it's not so, although it is seeped in like the story, the narration is seeped in reality and the ugliness of it, the prose, like, it stands out, and it gives this story a very realistic yet magical quality, and I really like that bit. And
I think like she's an amazing author.
amazing writer. Like, I understand the criticisms about the plot and some of her choices, but the writing bit, so good.
And I think that we should be reading more of her works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and do not expect a very easy read, because when I picked this up, I was like, oh, it's only 187 pages. I may be able to finish it in like 3 days, 4 days, maximum a week. It took me more than 2 weeks, and I was like, I was rereading sentences and like, what just happened? Did it actually happen? Oh, then what happened before? Oh, is it connected to this really? So putting the puzzle together was a difficult task, and when you look at the page number, do not judge the book by the page number. Is one advice I would like to give.
And something else I really enjoyed about the writing bit is there are, like, for example, like I said, this was sold as a feminist dystopian novel, and when you think about the word dystopian, there are certain, I would say, facts or certain elements of the story that you would expect to be revealed or somehow explained towards the end of the book. And if you go in with that expectation, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because this is very ambiguous. And I believe that was your experience too.
Yes, ambiguity is like a part of Mackintosh's works.
And I found that very fascinating. And if you are ready to look past that, if you are ready to look past certain, like, don't go into it with preconceived notions and okay, because of the title, the feminist dystopian novel, like, don't expect certain things to fall right there, or like the pieces to fall and provide this perfect picture. If you go into it without those expectations, I think this is a wonderful read. And go through the trigger warnings, definitely. Apart from that, I would recommend this book. If you go through the trigger warnings and you are kind of okay with it, the trigger warnings are pretty heavy. I'm going to be honest here, it is pretty heavy. And yeah, apart from that, if you're okay with it, definitely recommend reading this one. You recommend this book?
Yes, definitely. I think both of us, we would highly recommend that
Like,
you
I'm
all
so
read.
convinced. I am like planning on stealing this book tonight. I mean, today, after this like discussion, I would ask you to take it too.
Yes, definitely. I'm planning to read it too. So this was our impression about Mackintosh and her works.
You're an awesome individual. Keep doing what you're doing. Yay!
Yeah, I think you are not just a good writer. I think you're an excellent human being, because I personally got the chance to talk to Sophie Mackintosh. So that is what I would like to tell her. Yeah, and we are definitely looking forward to more of her work. So reading more of her works. So thank you for bearing with us, and we'll be back with more videos. Thanks for watching.
Bye.